Hi. Welcome to the Wisconsin Maritime Museum. My name is Caroline Deemer, and I am the programming coordinator here. And I am so excited to welcome you to this month's Think and Drink. Think and Drinks, if you guys don't know, are a monthly free speaker series that happens here at the Wisconsin Maritime Museum. So they happen on the first Thursday evening of every month. This year, in celebration of Cobia, our submarine outside's 80th launch anniversary, we are hosting a year of talks about often untold stories from World War II. I would like to thank our sponsor, the Wisconsin Humanities Council. The Wisconsin Humanities Council is the reason why we're able to offer these talks and have them be free. The Wisconsin Humanities Council strengthens our democracy through cultural programs that build connections and understanding between people of all backgrounds and beliefs throughout the state. I am super excited for this talk tonight. We have the very exciting Dan King. But before we start, I will start with an offering of tobacco. Offering tobacco in the form of a tobacco tie is a custom that is shared by many Indigenous peoples. It can be offered for many reasons and in many different contexts, such as when asking for assistance from an Indigenous elder, knowledge keeper, or another person. When a person accepts the tobacco, they are agreeing to help in some way. The left hand is used to offer the tobacco because it is the hand that is closest to the heart. Tonight we are asking Dan King to help us learn not only about this history, but to share his own family stories. So I'm offering you this tobacco to share you and your family's stories with the museum and with the guests here.
Well, like I said, that's kind of important in our culture. That wherever I go, when they ask, because usually in our way, we never had phones back then. So it's kind of hard to go way across somewhere and have somebody tobacco. But I'm, like I said, I'm Oneida, Iroquois, but we don't use that term no more. We're going back to our original, and that's called Haudenosaunee. Iroquois was a Huron French word that meant black snake, and it didn't fit us too well. So that's what that is, when I tell people Iroquois, they say, oh, okay, what is that? Well, it's 5 nations. Wait a minute, no, there's 6. So no, originally there was 5 nations. I said the Tuscarora came in from South Carolina in the late 1700s, and the Oneidas adopted them, and that became the 6th. So when you see our symbol, our flag, we got the squares coming from the east to the west. In the center, we have a flame light. And the flame's a fire keeper. And when we start off to the left, we start out east with the Mohawk. Then the Oneida, Onondaga is in the center. They're the center of our world. And then we have the Cayuga, who are the hill people of the hills of the eastern part of New York. And then those Seneca are the western door. They're the last. They were protecting everything that came from the west. So each of that history is a lot different. And like Christine said, there's a lot. And on behalf of, let's see, my line is, when I came home from Vietnam, I traveled, hitchhiked from east to west, north to south. And I always tell people I visited some of the finest county jails this country has to offer. Know where the good food is and the bad food. But that was a different time too. And that's how we were treated too. And then my original talk, that's what I do. I did my life's poetry. Well, I didn't call it poetry, but after I kind of healed, my older brother, who passed away, and he's gone now for the last 4 years, he was there too. So he told me how to take that. And I told her earlier, I said, he was the artist of the family. He did drawings, paintings, acting, got me into that, played in the band and all that. But I said, I'm not willing to be that starving artist he wanted to be. I wanted to eat. And looking back, everything we do in life, if we look back, it's a learning lesson, a learning tool for us to learn something from it. to see what that is. And that's what I do with my poetry and when I speak and talk to other guys throughout the country, conferences. In fact, next week I'll be down in New Orleans speaking at a conference again. And they're gonna take me on a tour of the World War II Museum. I hear it's really great down there, the museum. So I'll do that too. And then again, I'll be home for another week or so, then I think I go to San Diego. No, Palm Springs, or I don't know. I'll have to look at it later. I don't know where I'm going half the time. But the tribal view, people have asked, why do you guys go? Why do you have the highest percentage of any group in the United States all the way back in time? You know, from World War I. I said, well, it was before that too. But they said, well, why? You know, look what the country did. Look what the Army did. Why are you in the Army? And, you know, that's a fair question, but, you know, I'd say we'll get up to that too. And I look back and I say, well, yeah. My grandfather, World War I. Now, everybody says, well, yeah, they served in World War I, pretty high percentage again. But did you know it took an act of Congress to allow him to go fight for the country? Because number one, guess what? He wasn't a citizen yet. We weren't citizens until 1924, 26. We were granted our citizenship after World War I. So it took an act of Congress for all the native tribes that went to World War I to go fight because of the treaty, the last treaty, which they call the Fort Laramie. In that treaty, there's a clause that stated that an American Indian shall never fight against the white man and raise arms to the white man again, or fight in his war. That stands today. Because I know 7 guys, natives of Vietnam, that used that and won in court, that they didn't have to go. Of course, they had to suffer that back home. And then, you know, some people there, the elders were pretty strict in that. And so that's part of that history too, is people ask, why? Why do you guys go so much? You know, there's, I think the Menominee Reservation just up the road. They did a study of them and they found out through the years that 80% of the Menominee people, men and women, were service connected in the service. And when we look at Oneida, and they asked, well, how many Vietnam vets did they have in Oneida? Well, they came up with, right off the top of the bat, 480 out of Oneida that served men and women. They didn't count the World War II or Korea, or those that just served. And then it was like, why? After what the country did and treated. And I said, simple. We lost the land once and we ain't gonna do it again. That's what it is. We're protecting. We protect Turtle Island. Turtle Island is the United States. That's what we call it. And that's what we do. We say we're protecting. Somebody attacks us. Well, we gotta, defend. And like I was telling Christine earlier, when I talked about that, I said, we grew up that way. You're a warrior. You're this, you're that. I mean, and we're pushed on us, And I tell them, I said, well, not just us, it was you, non-tribal people too. Well, yeah. I said, think back. Go back in time. Think when you were 7 years old. Well, what's 7? Well, that's your brain's developing and starting to remember and think, and you're going to go to school. Okay, you're outside playing 7, 6, 5, maybe 7. You fall down and you hurt your elbow or your knee real bad and it's skinned up. And all of a sudden that male voice comes from somewhere. Hey, suck it up. Men don't cry. That's the start. That's the same thing. You're a warrior. when you put them two together, that's what it is. We start that when we were that young, through all those years. We never learned. Our grandfathers, our fathers, World War II, World War I, Korea, all those. What were they say? Oh, you protect, you defend the United States, you defend this country. You go to war, come home, get on with your life. You don't ask for nothing, right? Really? Wow. Can you do that? No. And it's like when I talked to my dad, and I never met him until I was 19. I didn't know who he was. And I thought, well, I was told by uncles and everybody else around Oneida, oh, he got killed in Korea. That's what I thought until one of my uncles got a little sauce one night and let it slip. Oh, really? So, sat down, had to go and find out why. And of course, my mom wanted the truth. So she did. Then she told me, and okay. So there he is, I said, okay. Left. And I never told nobody. My mom, anybody, even the Indian community in Chicago, because that's where we got sent during relocation of the 50s. In the 50s, we were sent, tribes were sent to cities to assimilate. And so that way, if you assimilated, you go to cities and you stay there and you retire and you don't come back to the reservation, the land reverts back to the government. There are no more tribes. That was one of the programs to eliminate tribes. And that's what we were under. But we came back on and off. And it was the same thing. Living in the same world. Like he said he'd see me. Well, geez, I didn't know, I was at that time back in '69, I think it was different. And I became a police officer in Chicago. They didn't tell me you avoid the draft or you weren't drafted because you were a public servant. They don't tell you that. But I did get in some little trouble 9 months later, and they suspended me for 90 days without pay. Okay, so what did I do? I'll go sit in the bar and have a few. I didn't know I was sitting next to an Army recruiter, so I guess I volunteered. I didn't know anything. I said, it was my choice, I thought, hey, I'm going to the Navy or the Air Force for the education and that. I was thinking about that. And I said, now I know what the Navy means. Never again volunteer yourself. But, I did, went. And the thing is, I didn't know at the time either. My older brother, he went in before me. And he didn't tell my mom. And I didn't know that, so when I left, I didn't tell my mom either. She didn't know where we were at. Because between him and I, we were the ones that were bumming the country. We started out young in the band and till we'd be home on Sunday night. We never said what year. But we'd just go see the country or, do things. And so that's how we ended up. And I asked him, how did you go in? I had a choice. I said, yeah, you did. You could be drafted or you could have volunteered. Well, I thought, I was looking at that guy in that black robe, and he told me, go in service or go to jail. So I went through that. That's what I did during PTSD. I didn't know what it. Judge told me I can go to treatment or I can go to jail. I said, well, I'll go to jail. I don't know what PTSD is. So I need 3 weeks off from work anyway, because I was working at IBM then. And I didn't know what it was, but I found out. But like my dad told me a little bit when we finally did sit down and talk, years later, we finally sat down and had a little talk. And he's telling me about his dad. I didn't know who he was either. I knew who he was, but I didn't know. And his dad was World War I, came out, ended up working with a colonel who became a general. Then he became the head administrator of St. John's Military Academy down in North Southfield, I think it is. St. John, yeah. So my dad got a free education, because he was, my grandfather was the general's assistant. So when World War II come, well, he was the youngest lieutenant in World War II. They tell me he was in the movie, or his name was in the movie, or some guy wrote a movie about it in World War II. I forgot the name of it. I didn't really care at the time, because I wasn't on too good of terms. But we had our little discussion, and he was saying, yeah, I said, well, I said, you know, your grandpa did World War One. And when he came back, he didn't speak, he didn't tell me, he didn't sit down and tell me what it was like or anything. He said, it's just World War II come, he said, well, you gotta do it. And we can't sit around, and so he did. So he graduated, and he was a second lieutenant, but he had to wait till he was 19 before he could go overseas and that. So that was his induction, I guess. It's almost like mine in a way. But he said, you know, during World War II, you know, there was a lot of things, there was still prejudice. I said, well, it was still in the Vietnam too. During that time, there was still a lot. Because if you were a Marine or an Army guy, and you were tribal, just about every guy I met, a native, had to walk point. And walking point is you're out in front of everybody, walking up there by yourself. I said, yeah, that ain't too bad. What? I said, I look at it different. Like, what do you mean? I look at it like I'm safe. They're gonna wait for these other guys behind me. They're gonna let me go by. And I heard that's what they probably did. Let you go by and you pointing at. So you were safe. They were waiting for the guys behind you. And we sat, and I said, well, what was it like then, World War II? He said, well, he was in the Pacific and Guam and that, and he said he went through a lot. I said, same thing. We sat down and compared. And he said, yeah. He said, we don't admit we were scared. I said, yes, I was too. My first week, I was scared. I said, besides that, I said, no, they don't train you for that. I said, they don't tell you what it's really like. All our lives growing up, I said, to me, it's a big lie. I said, because you guys never told us. Uncles and all them, World War II and that, they never told us what it was like. Oh, he's World War II. Wow, man, he's a hero. He's a legend, you know, blah, blah, blah. Seeing how they did and everything, and wow, you know, I can't wait. Then the movies, you know, oh, I want to be like that guy. I want to have these medals, and I want to have women hanging out me drinking and having fun. That's what I want to be. 2 weeks in, I mean, I dropped my weapon and was digging in the ground, trying to dig a hole with my fingernails. Because guess what? These guys are trying to kill me, and I don't want to die. No. No, so it took us a little bit to really realize that, yeah, this is what it's about. It's about dying. And I tell them, you know, I said, you know, to me, you guys talked about in a battle, in a glory battle or something like that. He died in the battle of glory. I said, no, there ain't nothing glorious about battle. It's horrific. For me. I said, I didn't want to be there for one thing. I said, I wanted to live. I said, but I acted just like everybody else. Oh, I'm a tough airborne. Airborne, they put that in your head and all that stuff. You know, and it's like, wow. You know, people look up, you know, and when I get home, I'm going to have these people hanging on me and that. And I'm like, hell with the medals. I didn't say hell, I said something else, but to hell with them. I don't want them, they ain't worth it. And it changed. And then I started thinking too. And he looked at me and he's like, wow, you really thought that? And I said, yeah. I said, why, were you willing to die? I said, I didn't want to. I said, I didn't either. What's the difference? World War II, Vietnam. Both of us didn't want to die. I said, what'd you go there for? You know, why did you go? Because you went to St. John's and you know, to be an officer. Yeah. He said, I had that instilled in you too by being at that academy more so. I'm like, yeah. This is what happened to your other sons. So my half brothers, the two of them, why didn't they go in if you were that way? And he just said, well, I didn't tell him nothing. I didn't want him to. I'm like, what? I said, I didn't want him to. I said, I was afraid of the truth, like you spoke to, that you were scared and what it was like, because that's what I was. And that, I said, well, is it the same? I said, because my thought is, who goes to die for flag, country, and that? Who dies for that? And I don't know. I said, exactly, because I don't know either. I said, all those guys on the wall didn't die for flag, God, and country. They died for somebody like me, my buddy, my friend. They watched your back. So I didn't sit there and look at one guy to my left or my right and say, oh, he's black or he's white, he's gay or whatever. I figured, hey, he's got my back. I said, that's what they died for, watching each other. And that's what I probably would have done. Because some of you know, when you're in combat, I've done it. I've seen the guy get hit, jump up, run out there, grab him, get him back, laying there, hour later, whatever, when things calm down, feel like punching yourself in the face. And what the hell did you do? I could have got killed. But you went and saved his life. You went and saved him. I said, that's what it is. It isn't about this flag, country, and that. I never met a guy saying, I'm dying for that. I got your back. And he said, I never thought of it. So World War II was different, a little different. They had objectives, they had things, they had lines, they had behind the lines. So Vietnam, we didn't know. We were under stress 24/7. Just had to play games or do something so we could try and get it out of your mind. You wake up, you don't know, hey, am I gonna be alive today? I said, did you feel that too? He said, only when we went out. I said, if we got in a fight, he said, then I wondered. He said, but when you look at the comparisons in that World War II in a regular year, or their tour was maybe 4 years or till it ended, and they averaged that out. And they said in a 4-year term during World War II, the person may have seen combat 15 to 16 times. Well, that doesn't sound right. But that was it. Vietnam, in 1 year time, where you're one full tour, you've seen combat maybe 100 and something. That's the big difference. And that's why he said, I don't know how you made it. And I don't either. And he said, they taught us. He said, but they taught you well because you're here. And when I look back and I see a lot of things, I'm also the co-chair of the Veterans Committee for the National Congress of American Indians. And we did a project back in 1994 because we heard about the code talkers. Everybody knew them. Navajo, they think gold talkers. But people, and even the president didn't even know there was other tribes that were gold talkers. Oneida had 5 of them. Menominee had 6 or 7. Chippewas, between them, they had, between all the reservations up north, I think there were maybe 8 or 9 of them. But throughout the United States, there was 37 other tribes that were code talkers in World War II. Well, the code talkers actually started in World War I. And it started with the Choctaw, when a lieutenant heard a guy talking on the radio to his buddy that was over somewhere else away from him. They were talking Choctaw to each other. And he asked them, do you do numbers? How do you, and he told them what their number system and how they speak and everything. And he said, what would you call a tank. Simple. Turtle. Hard shell, tank. Well, what would you call the airplanes? Mosquitoes. Could they fly like a mosquito? So that's where he got that idea. And when he talked to his buddy, they said in the other Choctaw, he said, well, I got 4 or 5 Comanche guys here that can speak to their language. So they developed this thing during World War II, but it's never told. That's what they did. And they said, without that, they may not have won, again, World War I. But that's part of history that's kept quiet, because they didn't want it out. So when World War II come about, that lieutenant, who was now probably colonel or up the ladder, gets that idea. Only the Navajo were the biggest tribe back then. They were the biggest tribe in the United States. And so there were 7 guys, Navajos, 7 of them, 27 of them, that took their language, their own language, and developed their own code. So they wouldn't use their language to say a tank is a turtle. So they developed a code for turtle in their own language. They added more onto it. The other tribes spent out in Europe, and they were with colonels on up. So they would pass the information out to the battles or wherever they were going, like even the Battle of the Bulge. That's how they got through that, by having the tribes talk to them, give coordinates and give things out that only the colonel would be ordering that. And that's how people didn't know. They all saw Navajo won the war of cold waters. No, it was all out of Europe too. Because there was a Menominee guy, when we finally honoring him, he's like, no, don't do that. Well, why? You were cold. He said, yeah, but he said, our great government here is still stuck back in the 1800s. And we're like, what? He said, they sent me out to the Pacific. Who's in the Pacific? The Navajo. I'm a Menominee. I can't speak to them. Because the government said, hey, all you Indians talk alike. Well, maybe we sound alike, but we don't have the same language. So that's the same thing. And that's how they figured out, oh, they're not, But they were kept secret all those years until 1967, when they finally were able to speak about it. And there were still some in Korea and Vietnam. Used them up to then. I'm not surprised if they're still not using, because that code has never been broken, and neither has the language. But that's like he was saying during World War II. Now he remembers Iwo Jima. He said it wasn't all the Marines there. He said it was also other tribal people too. Because again, he said that I was there, and another guy, one of the other tribal guys, Lloyd Schuyler, I think, was there. And they talked to each other in that sector where they were at, giving the information to each other on their movement and where they were. And then they call it back to the ship and then go in that area. So I said, that's how they were doing things. They were calling them in and doing different things like that. And he said, yeah, he said, we didn't want to get captured either. But then again, the Japanese and Germans and that, they didn't distinguish who's Navajo or who's Oneida, who's Lakota or Cheyenne. They didn't know, so they didn't even know if some of them even spoke the language. Because the language back then was sent to boarding schools and was beat out of you. You weren't allowed to speak it. Now, that was up until 1968 too. Now, there's a lot of things that happened back then. Indian natives in Arizona and New Mexico weren't allowed to vote until 1968. Pretty bad. Like, what? Yeah, they weren't allowed to vote. Although they went to war, they fought the country, they developed their language, they did all that, but they weren't allowed to vote until 1968. We never got our Religious Act until 1978. Full religious. To do our own. So when we had our feathers, our bags, medicine bags, same thing as the St. Joseph cross that they wear now, that same thing, but we weren't allowed to have them. You know, the family would use their tobacco and that, put that in there, so when you're going to another country, you may not come home. But when I look at this and say, hey, this got me through because I know my mom, sister, their prayers are in here watching for me. So it's the same thing when I'd see the guys hold their cross and pray and that. And I've seen guys take them, tear them off and throw them on the ground and say, God wouldn't put me in this hellhole. Yeah, it is. But pick it up, man. You gotta have something. You gotta believe something, some faith. That's what this is gonna do. It's gonna get us out of here, hopefully. But don't throw it down. And that's a whole difference from, so really the war really didn't change too much from World War II, Vietnam, World War I, World War II. It didn't really change so much. It was just we had this stigma on us. Oh, you're Indian. Well, you know how to fight. My dad was World War II, and he said, if I want to get home alive, hang out with an Indian. I hate to tell you, go home and tell your dad he's lying. Because a bullet will go through me just as fast as it would anybody else. So the bullet ain't gonna come towards me and say, oh, you're Indian, and go around me? I don't think so. And I'm like, what? Because when I got shot, those guys felt worse than I did. And I'm the one that got shot. And they're upset. And but see, I bleed red. I don't bleed any other color. A bullet didn't stop. It didn't go around me. So there's your proof. I'm just like everybody else. Anybody else, I ain't nothing different. You think we know how to fight because of the movies. So that's, the Army has that barracks. And they use a lot of the tactics from Geronimo and Sitting Bull and Tecumseh out east and that, their movements. Think of that. When you look back, the British and French, when they fight, what did they do? Stand from here to the end of the room and then shoot at each other. Well, how did they get the tribes involved? Hey, duck behind this tree. Let's hide out here. Duck down. Don't stand there and get blown away. And they used that. They studied a lot of their movements. How could Geronimo hide out in all that desert and they couldn't be seen? How did he do that? How did Chief Joseph get all those people to Canada, his people? And they were tracking him for 2 years and they couldn't catch him? And all those people, those elders and kids, tracked him for 2 years, winters and everything. How did he get around them? We had him blocked and he slipped through. How did they do that? Well, it's like they say, you get in with the land, just like my aunt told me when I was young. You're going to be older. When you get older, and if there's a war going on, use what the Creator or God gave you. What? Well, you know how to hunt, yeah, but use what He gave you too. Okay, what's that? So your smell, your eyes, your ears, in here, feel. He says, what do we do today? He said, today, got the sign, danger, do not touch, so we can follow that. What about in here? Are you going to take your finger and stick it in an electrical cord? Probably did it when you were younger, Bobby Finner or something, got shocked and say, hey, that hurt. Well, she says the same thing. When you're out there, so you use these things that God and the Creator gave you. Okay. Watch the animals. So wherever you're at, look. Just like you do when you're hunting. You're looking at stuff to see what's different. Where's there a path? Why is that bush odd over there? Question. Feel what's here. Because when we see, if there's not a sign up, what do? Oh, it says, I don't know if I should. I'm going to go over there anyway. Go home, booby trap or something. Something told you. I told you here, don't go over there. Don't take that step. So, but you gotta learn how to live with that. You gotta learn that balance. Doesn't mean everything's gonna be bad, but there's just things there that only you will feel. And you will know not to do it, but we don't. So we are not like animals, that's what they tell us, but we are. She said, a wolf pack will look around in the pack, and they'll look different than the rest of us. Let's go attack him, chase him away, he's different. Oh, got him gone. There's something a little more different. Let's go attack that one. Not like us. So that's what the wolf does. So we, as people, so we could take the same people, put them in a room, make them all the same, a little different about somebody, just a little bit. And we'll all sit there and we'll start looking. Oh, see what's different about this one. So, but yet they're all the same height, same eyes, same feature maybe. Something's different though, because not everybody's perfect. And they'll find that, and they'll start on that. I said, oh, so what you're talking about, Aunt, is bullying. Yes. See, they played things on us back then. They wouldn't tell us everything. We had to figure it out. She said, that way it will remain to you the rest of your life. If I tell you everything, you'll forget it. But if you listen and you think and you understand and find out later, it'll last you a lifetime. So that's what they were doing. And that's what I was trying to get out of my thought about World War II. And here we find out it was no different, just the name. World War II, Vietnam, Desert Storm, Iraq, Afghanistan. You talk to them guys, and you'll find out, hey, theirs was a building to building. Ours was jungle and jungle, and that. But it was the same. There was no difference. So when I look back and say, well, then World War I, yeah. Weaponry changed. That's about it. As each war went on, the weaponry just changed, but not the whole aspect of it. It hasn't changed that much. It's still the same. You know, things are just called differently, like he said. He had the same problems. Same thing when he got home. You don't talk about it, get on with your life. Well, how do you forget? You know, it goes back to that same thing. How do you forget that person that you took? You know, to me, I think I'd rather been in the infantry because then everybody's shooting and you don't know what you're hitting. But, you know, I was a ranger. That's another mistake. And when you do something like that, how do you forget? Oh, it's American way. We just go to war and protect and come home and get on with your life. Well, why am I so messed up? Well, I look back. Now my mom, she taught us different things. There's a church over there. It's called the Catholic Church. Go over there and find out what it's about. Down the street here, there's a Methodist. Go over there and find out. Down here, there's a Baptist or something. Go find out. She sent us to these churches. Said, you choose your own life, your own way. You know our way. Now go find some other. Look at others. You may want that way than our way, but that's up to you. Yeah, so we did. And now, down the road there, thinking about that when I was in treatment, I was thinking like, okay, is there a difference? No, because it's all the same. The bottom line, it ends up being the same. And I started looking at, okay, what do we do? Oh, she did this. What's the same thing? When you ask, call somebody, you come and help me? Hey, I'll give you a beer. Well, same thing, maybe not tobacco, but you did that during your life. You offered something to them. We don't look at it the same, even though it's the same thing, same meaning. What do? Oh, when you go to church and you light candles, what's that for? Oh, this is my uncle who's sick. I'm going to pray and light this candle for him to get better. What do? Oh, we go out and we light that smudge and we take a feather or something. We say, oh, I hope he gets better. And we pray. And what's that? And then at the end of the service, what does he do? He lights that incense in that thing and then goes to the church and swings it. What do? Oh, we love sweet grass, part of it, tobacco, sage. Ooh, what does that mean? Oh, all our prayers are taking it up here to the Creator so He could hear us. Same thing, just done in different ways. Same belief, done in different ways. I'm like, wow, what's the problem? And I think too, I said, hey, when I talked to the VA, and I told my dad that too, I said, I go and I sit before these guys, supposedly smart people, and I'll ask them, how many veterans we got up there on the panel? Okay, he'll understand. The rest of you don't. Well, what do you mean? I said, I'm down here and you're looking at me, and I'm speaking to you. And you're looking at me saying, oh, he's a Native American Indian veteran. Speaking on behalf of the American Indian veterans, right? Yeah, that's partly true. But I look at it different, just the way we do. Oh, how is that? A vet is a vet. Is a vet. What? That's what a vet is a vet is a vet. I said, because I didn't sit there in that damn hole, looking to my right, looking to my left, saying, oh, he's white, he's black, I'm going to protect this guy, I'm going to protect that guy. No, we didn't look at it. We looked at, hey, we're all in the same boat. We all wore same green. We're all in the same hole. And we're all fighting for our life. And I'll tell you what our thoughts were. And I know some probably don't agree or think it's odd, but open your mind. And when I was laying in that foxhole, I said, fire truck on that flag and this and that. I want to go home alive. I want to go home and see my mom, see my family. Hell with this. That's what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking, I said, to me, I said, all those John Wayne guys some of them are on the wall. They didn't last long, the John Wayne types. I think maybe a month, less than a month, majority of them. But he was telling me that was kind of the same thing in World War II. But yeah, you had Pearl Harbor and you were doing stuff. You were fighting for the world, for one guy. We weren't. What were we doing? I said, that's the only difference between the two. The things were all the same. The minds were all the same. But the thing behind it wasn't. So, what is it? What was the difference? World War II, Korea. Well, Navy, Air Force, my uncle was in the Air Corps. And that's when he said, yeah, I said, I was in the Army Air Corps. What? I said, yeah, I didn't learn that till school. Oh, it became the Air Force after World War II. Oh, okay. Now it makes a difference. Well, what did you do? No. And I didn't understand at the time because I asked them. I didn't know I'd be asked the same years later. Uncle, what? How many did you kill? Walked away. I didn't know. Years later, there I was, the nephew asking me, Uncle, what? How many did you kill? No, I ain't going there. And I said, if we were truthful, if my dad was truthful, I don't know if I really would have been so thrilled to go in that. when I think back and say, wow, maybe I should have, if we did the same, I said, he's like, what do you mean? I said, maybe if I heard the stories of what you guys went through and what you had to go through. I know some. I know about Korea, about the guys freezing and urinating on their weapons to keep them from freezing. You have to do what you have to do. And I'm talking about the feeling, the emotional, the mental, that part. I said, because when I was there, I said, my battle was this way, behind the tree. I wasn't out there doing this. So I was doing this. A rock or something, hiding, shooting. I said, in the grass, just pick it up and shoot. Because I didn't want to see anymore. He said, oh, because I did the same thing. He did the same thing. I said, well, it'd been nice if somebody would tell us stuff instead of, being this man. I said, besides that, what is a man? He couldn't answer. So I don't know either. Different ones, different things. I guess he could say, is being a man killing somebody that didn't do nothing? Like, I don't know. He said, I did. He said, I know you did. And there we have the same. He said, so there really isn't that much. Because when I speak to other guys, I tell them the same thing. And I'll tell them, yeah, oh, you go on with your life and you forget about the war. No. I said, no. I said, because I know the guy my first time. I said, and I look, and all the guys come up, hey, chief. And we were all chiefs still together. Hey, chief, you saved us. Did a good job. You had our back. You got him. Hey, man, that's good. I'm like, yeah. Wow, what a feeling. You get a feeling before you have that. I got him. Until you go over there and you have to search for papers. And there's a book. Pick up the book. I say, pick up the book, look at it, then all of a sudden a picture falls. And there's a wife and 2 kids. And then you can't show emotion. You can't, because you're going to get your buddies killed. You can't have that feeling, because that's what you're supposed to do. You got to bury it till it's over. And then sitting there, God, I don't want to see his face, but he's there. Oh, I want to forget it. So I think I'm going to have another beer, have another shot. I want to forget it. Well, they say it goes away. No, it doesn't. They said today, 2023, his daughter is 58 years old and his son is 54. Tell me it goes away. And I can go each year and I know. But I learned how to live with it. And I learned how to accept it. I said, but, he said, that's probably the same for me. So it doesn't change. When they said, hey, we look at the 2 different wars. No, they're just some of their things, but things just different happen. I was in France for the 75th anniversary of D-Day, and I was invited by Penobscot from Maine. And this guy, Charles Shea, he told me a story. I was on my way to Africa during that time. I got diverted and had to go to England. I don't know why. He said, I didn't know what was going on. Everything was so secret and all that. And he said, we were going to Africa. And he said, I didn't know why. Again, he said, then I learned the day before, oh, we're going to go to France and get German. He said, I was 19 years old and I was a medic. I didn't have a weapon. I was put on one of the first boats, first transporters over there, leading the way, and I didn't have one. He said, when that door came down, he said, all hell broke, and I had to get there. And he was telling me about it, how he just had his pack for medicine, and he ran out in the first hours of morphine, and guys laying and screaming, and he said, that's all in his mind. He's 19 years old. And all this is happening. He said, I was so tired. He said, yeah, I asked God, give me the strength. I got to get this guy. I got to help him. He said, somehow I got up and did it. He said, I laid down. I wanted to rest. He said, by then it was getting nightfall. I said, yeah. I said, you get some rest? He said, no. Because when I laid on that beach and looked out, I seen guys drowning because they were wounded. They couldn't swim. He's like, I can't lay here. He got up and ran out there and started dragging guys in as the tide was coming up, trying to save them. He said he lost his best buddy. Found out later that his best buddy, how the medic guy died. But he said he just kept going. He said all that he said I never did it until after. He said, so when you talk, he said, it's the same. There's no difference. He said, it's all the same if we look at it in front of us. He said, there's nothing glorious about war. He said, I don't know why people say that. He said, but I was 19. He said, I think I turned 50 by the time that 2 days later. He said, I felt like I was 50 years old. And he said, and we got talking, come to find out, I was with his cousin, who was Special Forces, and we drank together. And that's how we met and talked about that too, the difference. Well, there was none again. He said, it's the same. He said, did you see that movie, Private Ryan? I said, yes, I did. And I ended up going to the VA a day later. I didn't know. They said secondary PTSD. What's that? First thing he asked me, did you watch Private Ryan? I said, yeah. He said, the beginning. Yeah. The sounds. That's what set it off. The word different, but the sound were the same. Mom, I want to home. Mom, I don't want to die. Help me. I don't want to die. The smell. I tell people, if you could smell blood, it smells. It actually does. People don't think it does. I said, no, you're around it, it does. I said, but those sounds is what set it off. Same sounds, different years. So you can go back to where your grandpa, he heard those same sounds. He said, so that's what it is. It never changed. Just like he said, the weaponry and that, but human life, no, it's all the same. He said, so it's the same thing. He said, whether you're God, Buddha, Allah, Creator, it's all the same. He said, we just do it in different ways. You're like, wow, I had the same thought. You know, maybe that's why we're connected too. And we all look at that today. And now when I talk to Afghan and Iraq, and I just talked to one the other day, and same story. You know, the thing is, like he said, you know, they were going house to house. I went to WWII after the Tet. I was in Vietnam in 71, so it was after. But it was still fresh. And I'm walking in that, and I'm like, I'm scared. I don't want to be in this. I'd rather be in the jungle. I felt safer in the jungle than in that city of WWII. When I came home, I felt safer over there than I did here. So when I stayed till 73, we all pulled out in 73. Came home and man, it was messed up. And I was out for a while visiting county jails. I said, well, I gotta do something. So I seen the advertising on the TV of Yakima, Washington. I seen the advertising. If you re-enlist, you can get this bonus. Oh, what the heck, I ain't doing nothing. I ain't got no plans. So, recruiter, here I come. Oh, yeah, you get $1,200. Okay, I don't care what I get, just go back. Well, what do you want? He said, you just got out, you've been out over 6 months, you're gonna have to go through a little basic training and that. Oh my gosh. And he said, then you can go back to your unit. I said, really? I said, yeah. I said, well, I was with the 173rd. Well, they're in Italy. Hey, I'm there. Okay, let's go. So boom, went. And before I went there, found out we had to go down to Venezuela. That was a whole different story. And then we got shipped over, went to Italy, and then they asked, oh, we need some volunteers. Where? Vietnam. All right, see, I failed the Navy again. And raised my hand. It's another thing you don't do in the saber, says raise your hand. And so I went back, figured what the heck. Well, we were supposed to be advisors. Went back, and here, I think I was there for about a month and a half. And I was advisor on the base north of Blue Bay. And I can't think of it. Anyway, that's beside it. Sitting there one day, they come in and tell me, hey, Sergeant, yeah, get on the chopper, we got a meeting, we're heading down. We're having a Quantry, we're gonna go to the meeting. Okay. Jump in the helicopter. Hey, where's Connie Tam? He's the officer, he's supposed to be with us. Oh no, we're going, we took off. He said, see that? We were up a little bit. That's VC coming. They were right outside the base coming towards us. I said, what about them? They're on their own. We gotta leave them. So we just took off. So I said, oh shit. So I came back again in 1974. Yeah, it was fall. They asked again, hey, who wants to go to Vietnam? Try again. I said, okay, I'll go. So we went. And here, we were there. And I remember them waking me up saying, hey, we gotta get out of here. And I'm like, why? Well, the VC are right. They're coming. You can hear them. That's not us. They said, that's them. Jump on the chopper and they're, wow. So that was 1975. Yeah. And we started flying back and forth getting U.S. personnel and equipment. And it was hectic. I remember hearing on the radio too about the Marines that were stuck on the embassy and they were refueling the helicopter we were supposed to go. I got a bad feeling. I ain't coming out of this. Something just told me, man, you ain't gonna make it this time. But luckily we got not halfway there, but halfway into the sea, and then we had to turn around because they picked up the Marines. I was glad. But it's odd because then you do all that, then you come home and you see what's going on. And I remember I was at the Presidio of San Francisco. Yeah, because I got court-martialed. Again, it wasn't a bad one. You do things, they don't have a sense of humor is the way I look at it. Some of you guys know. Okay, we came back one of our missions in 1971. Came back from a mission out in the jungle for 2.5 months. I was a SRAP. That was a short range assault patrol. Not alert, didn't want to be alert, SRAP. So, get back, what happens? Thirsty, there's no beer. What? There's no beer. Why? The VC cut the roads. Highway 1 was shut down and they're not coming in. Wow, man, what are we gonna do? We had no beer in 2 months. One of my guys just happened to be out of Fort Polk, Louisiana. Fort Polk is the main helicopter repair station and test for helicopters. He knew how to fly. Hey, come here, guy. Let's go get that helicopter. And we went down to Cameron Bay and stole from the Navy the beer and come back. And I got court-martialed for that. They said I stole the helicopter. But during my trial, they said, my attorney that I had, the military code of justice is way different than what we're out here. They do what they want. And I was guilty before I even got there. Because the 3 officers out there, they looked and I knew I'm in trouble. So the attorney looked and said, hey, I got it. I said, hey, we just met. We never even sat down to talk about the case or anything. We just met. And you're going to say, you got it? I don't want to go to Leavenworth. And he said, no, I got it. Don't worry. So what the hell are you doing with a dictionary instead of the code? He's like, don't worry, I got it. I said, man, you keep saying that. Well, he got up and he told him, all charges dropped. What? I said, all charges dropped. You can't charge him again or anything. Why? Because under the dictionary, which all you guys agreed, stolen. It never comes back. You'll never see it again. It's gone forever, right? That's the Webster's dictionary. He didn't steal it. They borrowed it. We brought it back. Had a few holes in it, but we brought it back. And they had to drop the charges. Only one stuck. Was that conduct on becoming an NCO? Here's my strike, take it. But that's what that's part of the thing. You have to do something. And my dad was kind of telling me the same thing during their time. They had to do something to get your mind away from what you were doing, what the war was about, what life and death, especially death, you had to do something. And we did the same thing. We did stupid things, crazy things. But then I look at it and I say, well, we didn't do crazy things when we were young. What do we got to talk about when we're old? Right? We'll look back. If we just lived a regular life, we're looking like, oh, what do we do? You know? But then we look back, we say, man, it was exciting. It was thrilling. How many people can say, I lived and I looked death? What is death? My dad looked at me and said, well, damn, where are you coming from? Are you smoking too much or what? I said, no. I said, just a thought. My mind goes and I think, and I want to put it in perspective. So, are you afraid of death? Oh, we're all going to die. Yeah. So, what is it? Death is a thrilling chapter when you face it in your life. Because you look back, like I say, when that first time I did it, and I felt like, wow, great. But then again, it's a downer. Then again, I said, I'm here, but how do you live? Well, I got tired of drinking my life and everything, and then out of jail and stuff. I wanted to be different. What would you do? I looked at all that and said, wow, what is it? Well, death is my teacher. Every day is a good day because I get up and I see the sun. I'm not in the ground. It's a good day. Great. That teaches me that the life is more important today, every day. And I don't let people bother me. If you want to bother, go somewhere else because you're not going to ruin my day. The only way it's ruined is if I allow it. Over there, I had my bad days. I'm not living them. I'm living today. There's a difference. Are you living or are you living a life? So I've never heard one guy stand up and say, God, give me 10 more minutes so I can go to work. I've never heard that. You know, and you look back on that, yeah, we got a wall there in DC. So all those guys there, you know, I say, hey, how many of them died for a flag country? God, they died for guys. So maybe I could be here, and maybe I could tell our story some way, so that people can have a different view, a different opinion. Maybe other guys will open their eyes and say, wow, it's right there in front of me. And I was so bitter for so long I've wasted how many years? My kids don't talk to me because I treated them like they were in the military or I was the boss. That's what I missed. Because a lot of those kids tell me, hey, my dad is teaching my grandchildren, he's treating them better than he treated me. Because now he made peace, hopefully, and realized, yeah, maybe we need to talk about this sooner. Maybe we need to hear that sooner than later. And that's what I tell them. I look back and say, you should have taught us stuff about drinking, about smoking. Back then in school, how many of us in grade school or high school, did they really teach us any of that? I seen that in the movie, Beach Bingo, whatever those names. Remember Beach Bingo movies and that? What are they doing? They're sitting on the beach drinking during high school. They're having fun. I don't want to have fun. But nobody ever told us that, hey, drinking's a social. It's not meant to get all wasted and drunk drive and forget all that. Because some of us did do it over. Teach us about the war. Let us know. Like I say, when I talked to that woman in the villa in Germany, and we sat down, and she was telling me I could hear the guns. I could hear that for days as they were getting closer. And she said, when we lived under Germans, they come, she said, and we try and gather our eggs and hide them. Because they wouldn't take 4 or 5, they would take them all. We'd bake bread, and they wouldn't take a loaf, they would take it all. And then anything we had, they would take. So we could hear them coming. And she said, we hid. You hid? Yeah. Because they were coming around, they were coming, the Germans were coming, they were gathering. And my dad and mom took us and they hit us. Then we all hid. And they took the people at the edge of town and they shot them all. The men, women, and my friends. They shot them. And what? We never learned that in school. And we just heard about D-Day, being that day of invasion, and then that's it. But hearing their stories, sitting there listening to the actual person telling me that was something. I'm saying these are things we need to understand and hear. Now, we need to listen and open and speak that way. The truth, what's in here, pass it on, and to tell our kids, hey, I told my daughter, told her the truth. I said, hey, I know you're going to be drinking, but I want you to use your brain. I want you to do it. If you're going to drink, you do this or that. You don't have to listen, but I know you are. I'm telling you because I don't want you to be like me, like I did. I would rather heard that than finding out on the street what it was like, because that was our education. We learned everything on the street. Then you got developed after, but it was too late. But anyway, that's what I think. And comparing the two together, by my dad and by this other guy, Charles, talking to them. He's 97. He's still alive today. And he lives in France, on Normandy. It's odd because when he was here, he was sick and about to die when he was 80-something. The woman over there, Maria, that met him, got him over there 10 years ago, and he's 97 today. And he's in health. He doesn't even use his cane anymore. He's getting better health care. What do? When we come home, now we gotta fight our government. For what? For our benefits. For what we were told we were supposed to get. And I said, that's when I told that Robert Cowles, the senator from here, when he was talking about Iraq and Afghanistan. We got the money, we got the budget. Really? What is it? Well, it's this. I said, no, that's for a war. What's your total? What? I said, you don't even know. You don't even think. I said, what's your total? Well, that's it. No, that's for a war. That's for for your 10-year prediction. What's the total? What if it goes over 10? Well, we just double that. That's simple. But what's your total? What do you mean? When it's over, what's it gonna cost? For those guys that don't have arms, legs, diseases, we got diseases we don't even know yet from Vietnam. We don't even know that yet. Because that's what I do. I talk to them and fight the VA for benefits for Iraq, all of us. And I said, so you don't even have a total, do you? I said, because you look back, World War I, World War II, Korea. What did I say in the beginning? What did I tell you? Our dads did, our grandfathers. You're a man. You go to war, you go fight for this country, you come home, and you don't ask for nothing. You get on with your life. The government doesn't owe you nothing. That's what they were telling. You guys probably heard that. Go to war, come home, get on with your life, and you don't ask for nothing. My dad was wounded, same scar, same arm. He never got a cent for being wounded. A lot of guys, a lot of them I talked to, my dad never got the education, never got the housing, never got the medical, our ears, I got ears, things now, all these things. How many of our dads got those? I'm like, huh? Dad, you're only 60. What? All the noise, all that, taking your ears out. They never got no that. They never went to the VA, say, hey, until Vietnam vets started speaking up, saying, hey, there's something wrong with us. Back in the 60s, late 60s, until then, something wrong. Wow, something, look at my skin. Well, what is that? I don't know. Well, oh, Agent Orange. How many got that letter back in 1980 after they made one settlement? I got it. And what did you have to be? You had to be severely retarded or dead in order to collect the benefits. What? You know, they're still, even today, they still. And that's what I tell them. The VA and that is doing us wrong. I said, they are hoping that we die before we get the benefits like our dads and our grandfathers, so they don't have to pay. And that's what I was telling that Robert Cole. He's like, no. I said, yes, it is. Think about it. I said, I've been fighting for mine the last 18 years. My brother, older brother, he did. He was fighting. He's gone now. He went in for a cold in 2019 down in New Mexico. Had snow. His wife told him, go in, you might have pneumonia. He, again, macho man, went in finally. He had a physical 8 months before that to be, went in. I said, oh, we're gonna do open heart because you got blockage and everything. Okay, call me when he comes out. Okay. 2 hours later, yeah, how's he doing? He left us. I'm like, what? He's gone. The doctor specialist in New Mexico and Albuquerque, where they sent him, opened him up. You got severe heart disease. You ain't gonna do no good. You ain't gonna make it to Christmas. He died a day before Thanksgiving, 2019. Now, here's what I said. You tell me that heart disease that severe will grow in 8 months, that they can't spot it. In that 8 months from when he went in for that damn physical. Talking to a guy, non-tribal, St. Louis. My cousin, Vietnam, walking downtown, going to work, he collapsed. Come 2-3 days later in the hospital. Doctors, what's wrong with you? What? You're a severe diabetic. You went into a diabetic coma. The VA never told him. Simple things that show up on your physical. They're not telling. So now they say, oh, Dan, yeah, you got Agent Orange, but you got something else. We don't know what it is. great. But I tell him, I said, well, I told you, I'm gonna live my life. I ain't gonna let it bother me. I'm gonna live as long as I can. I say my goal in life is to be the oldest Vietnam vet alive in the United States. So far, so good. So that's what, and he's like, you know, it's the same when you put the two together. And he said back then, he said before Desert Storm, he was saying, yeah, we have another one that's going to be the same again. Yeah, so maybe we should tell the truth. Tell them what it's like. We grew up thinking, oh, we're warriors. We're going to do this. We're great. We're fighters. Until those bullets start flying. And I think back, I say, I wonder if Geronimo and all them guys, they probably felt the same damn way. All that from way back. Everybody felt the same. So it's that same question. Who here wants to die? Raise your hand. I've never seen one in the service raise their hand. And my dad said, yeah. He said, we're all the same, no matter what. So whether it was my dad or my grandfather, he went through the same. So in the future, maybe it'll be the same too. But he said, if we speak, maybe you're right. Maybe if we have the courage to stand up and speak and tell what it's like, and to try and have somebody listen, to have them guys in Congress open their eyes. Because I asked them, how many of them family members do they have in the military? When you look back in the 50s, there was a lot of them, but not today. There isn't, so hard to say. But, you know, like I say, it's an eye-opening, and I hope, you know, got some things to you and bring awareness and everything. And looking at that boat out there, I was thinking like, man, I wouldn't want to be in that thing. That's small. I'd like to thank you for coming anyway. Questions?
What's your dad's name?
John L. Danforth.
John what?
John Arthur Danforth. My dad or my grandfather?
Your dad.
Oh, my dad is John L. Danforth.
John
My grandfather was John A. What the heck was that? Oh, I had that in my mind. Danforth. My dad, yeah, John L. I called him Lucifer. He didn't like that. He had that sense of humor. That's part of that thing too. My mom, before she passed, she told me, yeah. She said, you know, you talk some things and that. She said, but also throw in some humor because that brings people back. She said, it's that old saying that we always said, laughter is medicine. Yeah. And it is.
Oh, yeah.
They do that a lot back home too. You know, even my brothers and my sister and them, when my nephew, he got in a car wreck and flipped out and hanging half out of a truck in Iowa. My sister was saying, well, they might do brain surgery. My brother told her, he said, well, you gotta have a brain in order to do surgery. Because he was drunk driving. She laughed. It's just the humor that brings us back to in a bad event like that. So even though in the service there, we did a lot of things, and well, you guys did the same thing. We had humor there. You know, I think I had more good days than bad when I look back on it. And I don't regret it. I don't regret it. It was the wrong time. And maybe, like they say, now I look back and say it was meant to be then. Because I look back and what did I learn? I learned a lot. You know, I learned, had a lot of good friends, a lot of good buddies. And like I tell the kids today, I said, you know, you guys talk about a gang. When I was talking to a federal prison in Pennsylvania, Bradford, Pennsylvania, at the federal prison. I said there was a captive audience. But anyway, they said, you know, a lot more gang members. said, well, you know, I said, I belong to the bigger gang. Like, what? I said, yeah. So we backed each other. And I'm like, what? I said, yeah, it was called the Armed Services. Yeah. I said, yeah. I said, they had Navy, Air Force. I said, I'll tell you what, when you get out of here, you go pick on that Air Force guy. When there's other vets around, Marine, Army, Navy, see how far you get. I said, because if you talk about brotherhood, where's your other 50 brothers? You're the one sitting in here, not them. I said, yeah, when I got home, I said, that colonel said, hey, you take him, you're taking 480 other guys with him. I said, that's the difference of being in the service and doing that. I said, that's what I learned. I said, it's a brotherhood, like they say, but it's a brotherhood that we mean it. And we've done it. And we look out for each other. And that's something that you guys don't understand. I said, only we do. I said, that's the difference.
How many total years did you serve?
Just over 5. Yeah, I didn't learn the first time, so we're back twice. Well, that's why I teased them about too. But I didn't have nothing to do, and they say, at that time, it wasn't a good time to be in the service. You know, as we all know, you know, we had buddies that got spit on. You know, when I came home, I was telling him down here, outside O'Hara, I stood there an hour and 40 minutes waiting for a cab to pick me up. And he knew right away, you were in uniform. Yeah. And I was told before I left California, don't wear that uniform. Guys were going in the bathroom and changing. They would buy clothes at the airport or on the way to the airport and change. I said, hey, I earned this, I'm wearing it. Yeah, hour and a half, over an hour and a half. One guy told me, he said, I went home, small town, the neighbors shunned him. It was a nurse I met in Minnesota, a nurse. She went home and the store wouldn't serve her. She was a Vietnam vet, and she was a nurse. When you hear these things, I'm like, yeah, I had to go through some of that, not maybe as bad as others, but when I got home, they honored you. They didn't spit on you, they didn't hit you. You were respected. So that little town in Oneida, yeah. You know, they give you a little dinner and welcome you home. You go down to the bar, they buy you all drinks and give you a case of beer and welcome you home. You know, that's more than any other guy I met got. You know, so when we got gatherings, we invite the people, we invite the veterans. And I know when I lived in Minnesota, our first gathering, what you call a powwow, we made certificates. We had the veterans sign in. And while they were sitting there, somebody typed their name in that certificate, thanking them for their service. And guys actually cried when we handed them that certificate saying, welcome home, welcome for your service. And they said that's the first time they ever felt something. First time they ever got welcome. Because then they were talking about how they were treated when they got home. And we said, well, that's what we do back home on reservations. Even at the Indian Center in Chicago, they welcomed you back. They did that, they held that for them. But it's not just for us, it's for all veterans. And we were honoring the women before the rest of the people did. Because we knew the women served in World War II, World War I. All those, they were there. But they're never recognized until recently. They weren't just nurses. There were some that fought. There was women that fought too.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, we got one more.
I was a combat veteran myself in the 4th Infantry Division, N60 machine gunner. And I'll tell you, my honor flight, even though these guys are all going to Washington, D.C., I despise our politicians because they sent us there. My honor flight was the last flight out of that jungle after 11 months, going home. That's my honor flight. just to let people know. And we did get routed at the airports. It was terrible.
Mhm.
You could get in the concourse that they were full. And they were trying to spit on you, they were hollering swear words at you. You were glad to get out of there.
Mhm.
And some of the people that age might be sitting here today. I hope it's none of them. But I do have some hard feelings for that.
Mhm. Yeah. I run
It
into that.
stays with you, you don't forget it.
Because I run into him and I asked him, I said, well, he said, well, you know, I was called a baby killer. I said, well, it depends on what you're saying. I said, if you were there, you think you want to live? I said, but you see a 7-year-old that they've taken and they put a bomb on his back and they make him run to you. What are you going to do?
World War II guys were the worst ones when I came home.
Mm-hmm.
I had to straighten them out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I got to them,
Yeah.
but you just gotta tell it like it is.
Yeah. Same thing. That's why I said I would never join the VFW. Because they threw me out of that one. They didn't even open the door. And that hurt. The door
Where's
hurt.
hell?
Yeah, the door hurt. Yeah. But no, I learned, I said, I forgive, but I don't forget. You know, that helped me. Not everybody's that way, but I said, that's me. You know, we all got to do our own healing, our own thoughts. And that's what it is with us, with our people, with a lot of our people. We talk about ourselves. We don't talk about others. We use ourselves as an example.
You gotta have good people that help you through life
Mm-hmm.
after you're in a war, and you'll make it through.
Yeah. Yep. And it's the family. Oh, no. I heard some guys say they didn't have the family. I'm like, what? I said, yeah, my cousin or my brother was against it, protested, and wouldn't talk to me. You know, can't imagine that. I don't know.
But you are fighting the VA.
Yeah.
It's terrible. You got people running in this country from all over, paying them rooms and paying their insurance, paying colleges and everything. And the veterans, we gotta prove
Mm-hmm.
this happened to us.
Yeah.
And the list on the Agent Orange is about 20 things.
Yeah.
And guys are dying right now from it.
Yep. That's what I tell him. I said, we died over there, but we haven't fallen yet.
Right. We're the lucky ones.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's like that, you know, like you say, the World War II guys, it took them a long time. It takes them a long time to understand what it was, you know. They say, oh, it wasn't a war. I don't know. What do you mean? Guys are dying, guys are getting blown up. What do you call it? Yeah.
I had a friend who came back from Vietnam, and he said that he had a hard time adjusting because in Vietnam there was this high level of excitement, anxiety, tension, and when he came back, everything was mundane and going grocery shopping and just doing the ordinary things in life. Did you experience that too? That there was, you know, I guess he missed that camaraderie that you
Mhm.
talk about and
Yeah.
just,
Yeah, you do. Because like I told him earlier, I said, you know, when I was here, I didn't want to be. I wanted to be back there. And I think that, in a way, that's why I kind of went back to that. Because I felt comfortable and I felt the guys, we were all together. Here, you didn't know who the enemy was. I mean, when my brother got home, walking down the street, and some guy come past him and he made a movement. My brother heard him, he turned, and next thing you know, he sliced down through here, his arm, and down through his stomach. He got to the hospital in time with a switchblade, and it's like, what the hell? And he's like, yeah. You know, it was just, at least over there, you knew who it was against you. Here you didn't know. And same thing with that nurse, like she said. The people in their town in that store wouldn't even serve her. I don't know how that feels, but I know, can imagine how she felt. No, that wasn't me. I can't say how I felt about that because it wasn't me. But I can imagine how much hurt she had. And those nurses were something. They were my lifesaver. Heck yeah, you talk about respecting them, yeah, right. Donut dollies, they call them too, they were there.
Another thing on these fire bases, you could have a chopper come in on a Sunday, to have a service, and you didn't care if it was a rabbi, who it was. If you wanted to go, you just went to that service. There was no grumbling and picketing and stuff like that. It was just a bunch of guys that got along.
Yeah, all wanted to go home.
Yeah.
But did you really want to go home then once you were here? And I heard the stories too, when I was there and how things were here. And like, nah, couldn't be like that. Nah, it ain't like that. But then we find out. And they brought out a lot of guys who are still bitter about it too, today. The one guy I know, he wants to move to Australia. He don't want to be, his grandparents are Australian. He wants to go over there. He wants to go there, but he said he had enough. I want it.
Can everyone join me again in thanking Dan for if you enjoyed this talk and you want to hear other stories, we do have next month, December 7th, Wounded Veterans in Parks, Underwater Archaeology, and USS Arizona. So you'll get to hear Annie Wright. She works for the National Park Service's underwater resource unit, and she'll be talking about a program where they are helping wounded veterans learn how to do underwater archaeology so that they can make deeper connections with places like the USS Arizona. So it's going to be a really interesting talk. I hope I hope that you guys enjoyed this and that you might want to come to the next one. If you enjoy this program and programs like it, consider supporting the museum. Support can come in so many different ways. Support can be donating, it can be becoming a member, or it can simply just be, telling your friends and families about programs like this and to come and visit the museum. So yeah, thank you so much for coming out.
Maybe one more thing, like I said, I did kind of do this thing, and I don't know if they call it poetry and that, but I thought I always had this one, and it always brought me